Well, what a year it's been. Thanks for taking time to listen to what's happening at the King's Family Church over the next few weeks and into the new year. There are three things I want to bring you up to date on today. Firstly, what's happening about the King's Family Church as a place of worship. Secondly, our Christmas services and events and how you can engage in them. And thirdly, a little bit about the future, 2021 and beyond. So let's start with places of worship. It's probably best if I just let you know the conclusion that we've come to regarding reopening and then share a little bit about why and where our heart is. So the managing trustees have thought long and hard, prayerfully and carefully about reopening the church as a place of worship. And this is the decision that we have arrived at. While ever Ashfield remains in Tier 3, where the alert is of a very high risk, the King's Family Church at Hucknall will continue to worship online only. But we are committed to doing everything possible to reopen for Sunday worship whenever Ashfield is placed into Tier 2, even though that still is of a high risk and transmission is considered high. You're probably thinking that the government will permit places of worship to reopen even in Tier 3. And although this is true, we've arrived at this is the right conclusion and it's not necessarily the right thing to do to reopen. Let me share a scripture with you that keeps coming back to me, although this did not form part of the decision-making process of the managing trustees. It's a scripture in 1 Corinthians 10 verse 23. And I've looked at least 40 different translations of this verse, and the heart of the verse seems to be the same in all translations. So I would like to quote it from the easy-to-read version of the Bible. And it says this: "Use your freedom for God's glory. All things are allowed, you say, but not all things are good. All things are allowed, but some things don't help anyone." So although some things are permissible, they don't always build up or edify people. And although some things are legal, they're not always beneficial. I'd just like to take a minute to affirm the team and encourage the managing trustees. Friends, we have a great blend of knowledge, experience and gift on our governance team. Take Rachel. Rachel works in a hospital setting. She understands the reality of the situation from a medical perspective. Karen works in the business world for local government, so she understands the impact it's having on local councils and how they're responding, and she has a knowledge on how this is impacting our local economy. Alan represents the heart of those who are traditionally set aside Sunday for worship. And he brings a perspective of our seniors and being in a more vulnerable group. And finally, I bring a biblical and spiritual perspective and have knowledge on what other churches are doing locally and a national perspective about how Assemblies of God are responding in various ways at this time. So I hope you'll see that we have a great team of people serving on our governance team, a great blend, with a real heart for the church and a real heart for you as our church family. And with all that knowledge and experience, we've agreed that this is the right decision for our church family at this time. But there's one person on our team that I've not mentioned, and that person has an even greater understanding and been instrumental in the decision that we've arrived at. And that is that all of our thinking, discussions and considerations have been led by the Holy Spirit. And that adds a supernatural wisdom to the things that we discuss. We all settled in our spirit that this is the right thing to do. It's not an easy decision to make, especially when there are two extremes of thought and opinion in our nation. It's a big decision to make. We know how much Christmas means to us as Christians. And I want to assure you that we've done everything we can to act wisely, responsibly, and through the conviction of the Holy Spirit. There are a wealth of things that we prayerfully and carefully considered, which include, but are not limited to, the fact that in Tier 3, very high risk of transmission. It's called Tier 3, very high risk of transmission, for a reason. There is a very high risk. Even though, as you look around and see on the news, even in our own town, there seems to be people that don't seem to be taking this seriously, as the alert level suggests. We have a church family that is predominantly vulnerable and are considered to be at greater risk. In fact, even if you just look at age alone, the percentage of people over 60 in our congregation is approximately, or at least, 57% of the church. And that's only based on age and not taking into account those with medical conditions or underlying medical conditions. You know me, I'm a person that lives in hope, and I can really see that there's hope of a new vaccine to be rolled out in the near future. And I believe that sometimes God brings healing through supernatural ways, and then at other times he uses the work of hands of skilled medical staff. And we can see that God is working through God-given human understanding, knowledge and insight as we close in on a vaccine that will change history. And I'm believing for a change to Tier 2, and that we can get together to meet again soon. You see, one thing that's been lacking in this world at the moment is any kind of consistency. And we want to bring consistency to you as our church family, to bring you stability where there doesn't seem to be any stability. We live in a world where the rules and the guidance seem to change almost all of the time without any real clarity or consistency as to why. So we want to be consistent in our approach about reopening church. We don't want to keep opening and closing, going online, going live without any real basis for change. So we've concluded that we will have alternative church over Christmas, and I'm really excited about the things that we have planned. And for the remaining 3 Sundays of 2020, we will stay as an alternative church. And then from the beginning of the new year, the church will open when Ashfield is in Tier 2, and will stay online whenever Ashfield is in Tier 3. Secondly, Christmas services and events. One of the things that we've really wrestled with is that, with the exception of Easter, Christmas is almost without doubt the most significant celebration in the church calendar. And although we consider the building and the procedures that we've put in place to significantly and safely reduce the risk of transmission, to be above and beyond the norm, Christmas is a time when we traditionally hold carol services. And it's a time when we invite our family and friends, church members, past and present, people from our ministries, weekday ministries. They join us every year in our celebrations. And you know, this year, with the big restrictions in our capacity, that wouldn't be possible this year. And Christmas is about sharing the good news with those people, and not just containing it to those of us that already have heard and accepted the great news of good news of joy. So instead of bringing people to church for carol services, we want to take Christmas carols from Kings to them this year. And we can do that in 2 ways. Firstly, we want to reach everybody we would normally reach through an online carol service, which you can then share with your family and your friends. And I will send a link to all of those who would normally fellowship with us that we have contact details for. And secondly, we're planning for something called doorstep carols, where small groups of 4 or 5 people can go carol singing outside the homes of those in our church family who live alone or who are vulnerable. And we will sing, we will read Christmas scriptures and say a prayer. Planning for this begins in earnest tomorrow, and I'm hoping to have organised so that we can go ahead in a legally compliant, safe and secure way, so that if people can't come to a carol service, then let's take carols to the people. So we need people to come and sing with us, or we will come to sing to you. Details will follow. I'm encouraged by this and hope this will bless a few of your neighbours too as we share carols on your doorstep. Again, I just need to say that as it's a church initiative, it's not something we promote and you go do on your own. We are bringing a collaborative, corporate approach so that we can remain legally safe, compliant. And you'll have seen that over the first 2 Sundays of Advent that a wider range of our church family have been involved. And we've been really encouraged by their ministry. People sharing in our messages of hope and peace. And we want more people to be involved in our carol services. And if we were to meet in church, we just would not be able to sing at a carol service. That doesn't compute in my mind, because singing and carol service, the two go hand in hand. There's a clue in the title. And we would not be able to extend to the wider church to be involved, as we can't have people coming out to the front and then taking their seats again. And seeing people involved is really important to us. So with that in mind, here's how we're going to celebrate this Christmas. And details will be coming out in written form very soon. Details of our Christmas services, events, and how you can engage in them. This Sunday, Advent service Joy is going to be online only. In our church family, I'd love you to be involved again this Sunday. Similarly, on Advent Sunday, the 20th of December, we will record our 4th Advent Sunday online. And that involves the church family again on the theme of love. But on the same day, on that Sunday, we would like to go into our community in person, organised teams, permitted. We're not encouraging anyone to do their own thing, but teams of people going out and bringing a Christmas message of hope and singing to people on their doorsteps. On Christmas Day, it's to be confirmed, but we will either have a short online pre-recorded service, or we might even try and broadcast live to your living rooms from the King's Family Church. We'll see how that goes. On the 27th is our final Sunday of the year, so that too will be online as we let go of a terrible year and look forward to a better year in 2021. Our first Sunday of the new year, 3rd of January, that will either be live in person in the building, or it will be pre-recorded online. And as I've already shared, that will be governed by the local authority tier that Ashfield falls in. So if we're in tier 2 after Christmas, we will meet in church. If we're in tier 3, then we will meet online. On the 16th of December, we've got a service called Remembering Our Loved Ones. And that's on the 16th in the afternoon and in the evening. And details will go out soon. We're hoping to be able to do that by what's called YouTube Live, which means it can be interactive and we can engage with you and still hang a message of hope and memory of your loved ones on our memory tree. And then on the 21st of December, a Monday evening, I believe it's a Monday evening, 7 p.m, why don't we get together and have a big Christmas social just before we hit the Christmas 5-day period where families can get together and meet. So on the 21st, big Christmas social online, 7 p.m, grab a mince pie, a festive drink, join us online over Zoom, and as family together, we'll just spend a night being social. Details of all our services and events will be communicated in due course, so just save them dates for your diary. And finally, I want to close this message with a little bit about 2021 and beyond. I want to say a few new words about the new year in the future. You know, as a church, we have a blank page, but the picture of the future is already starting to emerge, starting to come into focus. And as we start to use the building again, whenever that is in 2021 for wider ministry, I just want to assure you that we are looking to resume our regular encounter prayer nights in the building. That we're looking forward to holding regular Discover study nights in the building. And as we look to build a strong foundation of leadership and governance, leadership training will commence in 2021. And as we look to build a structure of firm foundations in leadership and governance, which is already well underway, After a lot of hard work behind the scenes, the principles of a new foundation of leadership and governance, that was agreed in principle by managing trustees at the late end of last week. And we're looking forward to building solid foundations on Christ the cornerstone as we look to rebuild the King's Family Church and all its ministries. We're having conversations about the new ways of encouraging and equipping life-changing ministries. Those conversations are starting to take place. And the principles and the subjects for holy living are starting to emerge as we head into a new year. So I'm really excited. And I hope you are too. I'm looking forward to a great and better new year and seeing what God has in store for us. You know, we want our vision to be outworked. We want to see God bless this place, bless you and your families and their children in all God's fullness. We want God to pour out his blessing on those associated with his church and more locally as the King's Family Church, and I believe we will see that. So thanks for listening. I hope that's brought some clarity to reopening as a church, to our Christmas services and events, and to the future, and bring some consistency and clarity that we're all craving. I'm looking forward to celebrating Christmas with you and a better new year with you all. God bless you all. Thanks for listening.